Hey guys, how you doing today? So today it's Thursday, and I thought to myself, I haven't had a cake or pie of any kind in I don't know a few weeks since we made the pumpkin pie. So I thought today, since all I really had to do was water changes, I would bake a cake. Surprise Chris, she doesn't know. Although she might find out before I get done with it because she may get up from her nap and get back to work. But uh, so what we're going to bake today is it's a essentially a blueberry bundt cake. It's a pound cake, a blueberry pound cake done in a bundt pan, uh, and then it gets a lemon icing drizzled over it. It's actually quite amazing. We've made it several times. So before we get started, let's talk about the bundt pan. This is a bundt pan. It's got a hole in the center. A lot of people use them to make angel food cakes. So, but you can use them to make any bundt cake. So what you want to make sure you do, if you don't own one already and you're going out to buy one, don't necessarily go cheap. You can pick one. I think I paid 20 bucks for this one, but make sure the center comes out, because what's going to happen when we get done with it and we flip it over, you want to be able to take this off and then pull the center out. If this is all one solid piece, and they make them all one solid piece, it can be a struggle to get the cake that you make out of it. So that's kind of important. As you're getting your ingredients together, just go ahead and preset your oven to, this depends. I set mine to 325 degrees because my bundt pan is a darker pan. If you have a lighter colored pan, I don't even have a lighter colored baking pan to show you. I set mine at 300 degrees. If you have a lighter baking pan, 325, a darker pan, 300 degrees. All right, that way, because darker style pans like this that are dark and not aluminum colored, these cook faster than they cook faster because they're dark and they heat up quicker and maintain a different style of heat. So if you have a dark bundt pan, 320 or 300, a light bundt pan, 325. All right, so let's go over ingredients real quick. I'll grab my handy dandy ingredients list, so that way I can remember what each of these, I know what they each are, but how much they are. So the first thing we got here, and like I said, another thing I want to show you real quick, scale. A scale is important. Not necessary, but it should be, just for consistency. When it comes to baking, you want to be as exact as possible. There are ways around it. I mean, like when you measure a cup, you can scoop, like I showed you in a previous video, scoop it, take a knife and level off the top. But you're never guaranteed that it's going to be exact. And if things weigh off too much in this, you're going to, your cake could not turn out right. So, first thing we got is 3 cups or 310 grams of flour, right there. And it's just all-purpose flour, regular old standard, cheap, well, not cheap, but the inexpensive of the flours. The next thing you're going to need is 1 tablespoon or 4 grams of baking powder. That helps it rise. And then you're going to need 2 grams of salt. 2 grams of salt, it's not much. It's a half a teaspoon, 2 grams of salt. And then 2 cups of blueberries, right there. Now, the original recipe, which I got from Joy of Baking, Stephanie Jaworski's YouTube channel, she also has a website, joyofbaking.com, says you should use, it uses fresh blueberries. Now, the reason why she uses fresh blueberries is frozen blueberries have a tendency to bleed out, and they can turn. They can just turn your bundt cake blue. So you'd have a blue bundt cake with blueberries, or bluish purple bundt cake with blueberries, and then a lemon icing on top of it. I've made it both ways. They taste the same. You do get a little bit of bleed out with the blueberries, at least the last couple times I've made it with frozen. We ran into an abundance of frozen blueberries. So, but it still tasted just the same. It just didn't have that non-bleed factor. All right, so anyhow, 1 3/4 cups, 350 grams of sugar, and it's just regular old sugar, nothing fancy, nothing special. 4 eggs. So I don't know if you can see the 4 eggs, maybe not. Well, it's 3 of the 4 of them. Right there, 4 eggs and yolks. And your eggs, much like your next ingredients, the butter, you want to be at room temperature. Hold on for me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So you've got your 4 eggs. Like I said, you want those at room temperature. It takes about 30 minutes. And then we're going to do 1 cup of butter, which is right here. That's 2 sticks of butter. If you go to the grocery store and buy the real butter sticks, it's 2 sticks or 1 cup. Your eggs, the butter, I cannot remember the grams on right offhand. I didn't write it down because I always use sticks of butter, and it comes from a factory. So, you know, even though it's real butter, I know it's a 1/2 cup per stick. So that I don't ever write the grams down on. Your eggs should be about 50 grams a piece. Now, that being said, there is some leeway to that. Oh, there goes the oven beeping. Only because, like, I know we use farm fresh eggs. And unlike when you buy eggs from the grocery store, which is where we used to get our eggs, they're all a uniform size. Eggs you get from, like, farm fresh eggs from a market. We actually get ours from the butcher shop. They have a tendency to weigh a little more, a little less, but they're close to uniform size. So I know, like in this case, this should be 200 grams of eggs, and I've got about 212 grams of eggs in there. It doesn't really affect a whole lot, but if you're buying your eggs from the grocery store, you want 200 grams or 4 eggs. And the last ingredient, very last ingredient, this is truly a very easy cake to make, is 4 grams, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Try to use real vanilla. Imitation vanilla its flavor can change depending on who makes it when you bake it. And if you can, try to get baking vanilla. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to tilt you so I can get in this cabinet and get my vanilla out so I can show you. Okay, so if you look on this right here, this is Watkins baking vanilla. It is a pure vanilla extract, and it's made for baking. It doesn't lose its flavor. Some vanillas have a tendency to either lose their flavor or the flavor changes, especially if it's not a real vanilla extract. So you want to make sure you get a real vanilla. It costs a little more, but not a whole lot more, depending on whose vanilla you use. So I did learn, though, that Watkins is... well, I learned that anything over 35% pure vanilla that you buy at the store can be considered pure vanilla. There's 60% pure vanilla, but this is what my mom used, my great-grandma used, my grandma used, Chris's mom used, Chris's grandma used. I mean, everybody that I've ever met uses Watkins. And it's relatively inexpensive comparatively. You can get an 8-ounce bottle, which is what this is, of pure vanilla, and it's like $40. This is like a quarter of that. So, well, this bottle wasn't. It was a little bit more. But like I said, use pure vanilla if you can. If you can't afford pure vanilla and you just want to get a little $1.50 bottle of vanilla, that works too. It's more, in this case, it's just more for flavor than anything else. All right, so first thing I did before I even started this video, and in this case, first thing you would do before you even started getting your, well, you want to pull your eggs and butter out about 30 minutes before you even do anything. But then when that 30-minute marker hits, or whenever, once they've hit room temperature-ish, turn your oven on. All right, I got my oven on. Get your ingredients together. Get your blueberries, your flour, your sugar, your salt, your baking soda, your vanilla all together, and you're good to go. And then the next thing you want to do after that is you want to put, now you can you want to grease your Bundt pan. Now you can grease your Bundt pan. You can use butter if you have some melted butter laying around, or you have a small pan to just hook up a get a small thing of butter together. Yeah, you can buy like the little saucepans, and they're designed for butter. Well, designed to heat up any small amount of sauce, but you can use them to melt butter, and you can line your Bundt pan with that, or I just use vegetable oil. Cooking spray is okay too. The thing is you just don't want it to stick. Now, I mean, this pan is considered a non-stick pan, but that extra safety measure goes in handy. You can even go as far as taking a piece of parchment paper and sticking it down in there. I don't want to work that hard to cut one out for this. That's just what it comes down to. Now, like when I'm baking regular cakes and things like that, I definitely use parchment paper in the bottom of them. Or breads, banana bread, regular bread, whatever. Alright, so we sprayed that, we set it aside, we got our oven going. We are rocking. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take our butter. Now let's talk about butter for just a quick second. I cube my butter up like this to help it get to room temperature quicker. If you have it in a whole stick, which you can do, it takes a little longer for it to get to room temperature, but you want to be able to push down on it and it be a little mushy, ooey gooey. See that? All right, so let's say, and we're going to put this in here and we're going to make it smooth like butter. Smooth like butter. Let's say your butter isn't completely softened. That's okay, because what's going to happen is, as we put this in the food processor, which if you don't have a food processor, you can actually you can use a hand mixer on this. If you do have a food processor, paddle attachment, you wouldn't want to use your whisk on this. That would tear your whisk up. But as your butter mixes, it will warm up and smooth and go smooth. So we want to get this smooth, somewhere around medium-ish, and that way it gets a good head start. Plus, we're about to put the sugar in next, and that'll help smooth it up a little bit too. Okay, butter is smoothed. Here, I am going to attempt to move you guys in just a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. I feel like I'm 800 miles away from you, and I'm just going to break all the rules and move you while you're turned on, because why? I can. My channel, I'm the producer, director, host of the show, owner of the channel. So I promise to go kind of slow, that way I don't get anybody sick. It is my understanding that moving people fast on a film can make their bellies hurt, which I believe that because I've had that happen to me. Okay, so there, that's better. Now you can look at the mixer and not so much me. So we're gonna mix this till it's smooth. Which we're very much there. And if you want to see what smooth is, it's right there. I mean, you're looking at a softened butter pretty much. That is what we're looking for. It's soft butter. It's been whipped together. It's no longer in a stick form or a cut square form. It's just smooth. I don't know how best to describe it other than what I just showed you. And never be afraid to stop and clean your sides off. Make sure things are getting mixed. In any kind of process or mixer like this, things have a tendency to stick to the sides, become uneven, things like that. All right, so we got that whipped smooth. No chunks, no squares, no blocks. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slowly add the sugar in. We don't want to add it all in at once. You don't want to just dump it in. It can create unevenness. Plus, we're looking to build a little air. We're trying to incorporate air into this as we go. So you don't want to just shut it off, dump it all in, and let it go at that. Now, once you get all your sugar in there, you're going to turn it on to medium. You're going to wash your dish because that's what you do. And while that's mixing, we're going to let it mix for like the next 5 minutes. While it's mixing, so we're trying to get air incorporated into it. Every minute or so, you want to stop, scrape down your edges, and your paddle. All right, well, I'm gonna let this run. When I come back, I'll have it mixed, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, so we did our mixing for 5 minutes, easy enough, and we did that on if you have a KitchenAid, it was like 4, 6-ish. There's not a 5 on there, but I can get mine to stop in between 4 and 6. So now we're just going to scrape down the sides. Get that all back close to center. Like I said, don't be afraid to scrape down your sides and give it a little mix up with a spatula. Especially with these KitchenAid mixers. Now, if you're doing this with a hand mixer, you still want to stop every once in a while and scrape down your sides. But you're a little less likely to have a couple things happen. Like, sometimes this will get stuck up on the sides or in the bottom of the bowl. The paddle doesn't always get right dead in the middle. So you don't want to mix that up and you get things stuck in there. All right, so I scraped down the bowl, got it together. Next thing we're going to add, we're actually going to add a couple things. We're going to put vanilla in, and then we're going to do eggs. When we put the eggs in, we're going to do 1 egg at a time. And what you're going to want to do is we'll just start it on low. We'll dump 1 egg in, and then we're going to let that basically incorporate in. We're going to let the yolk break, and we're going to wait until we can't just see yolk sitting around pretty much anymore. Doesn't take long, and then we'll add the second one. You want to do this one at a time. And then this way it doesn't, you're still adding air into the mix, and you ensure your eggs get done evenly. So the reason why you let your eggs sit to room temperature is exactly for this reason. The yolks will struggle to break up quickly if they aren't at room temperature, and you'll see a difference. I didn't know that for a long time, and then watching Stephanie, when I first started watching Stephanie a few years back, she explained why the room temperature thing is. All right, so you want to mix that until it's incorporated, which it looks pretty incorporated. Go ahead and get that shut off. We'll give it another good wiping down at the sides. Make sure we're all mixed up in there. Don't be afraid to use your spatula. That's what it's there for. That's what you buy them for. So we're going to mix the sides down. Get that good and incorporated. Make sure everything's up off the bottom. And there's, your batter will start out white, and when you add the eggs to it, it's yellow. But if you will find you may have pockets that are still white in color or really light in color at any rate. And if that's the case, then you're not mixed completely in. That's when a spatula comes in handy. You can never have too many spatulas, right? Hands down. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is mix our dry ingredients. So our dry ingredients were really straightforward. You got your 3 cups of flour. You've got your teaspoon of baking powder right there. You've got your half a teaspoon or 2 grams of salt right there, and boom, that's pretty much all our dry ingredients. The rest of that baking powder out of there. Wasn't much, but every little bit counts. And then before we incorporate that in, you want to mix it together. If you don't, you could run into pockets of salt, pockets of baking soda, and you don't want that, at all. So the salt, if you get a pocket of that, it kind of will ruin the bite. And it wouldn't be a big pocket just because there's not a lot of salt, but what the salt does is it brings out all the flavors Yeah, it helps to bring out all the flavors in here. That goes together. All right, so all we got to do now is we're going to add the flour mix into it. We're going to do that in 2 parts. We're going to start up. Always put your flour in on low. If not, you will have a face full of flour. So I'll start it on low, and I'll start adding. I'll put half of it in. And I'll let that mix up. Now, you don't have to leave it on low, but you want to start it on low. And as it incorporates, you can speed it up. Because I got flour all over my hands and my mixer. That's all right. All right, so we got that first half put in there. Now we're going to put the second half in. Second half is in. So anytime you go to bake or cook, if it is a tool that you have not used in quite a while, I recommend you wash them off, get the dust and stuff off of them. At least that's a practice I got into. You don't have to, but I think it's a good habit to get into. Like that Bundt pan's been sitting in the bottom drawer of my oven for, I don't know, 5 months. You know, it's gotten some dust on it, some kitchen grease, and God knows what else that's, fell down in there food-wise or kid-wise, or you just don't know. So even if you live by yourself, dust and all that kind of stuff occurs if you cook a lot. Yeah, you've got kitchen grease. I know once a week I have to go through and we wipe everything down in the kitchen. You wouldn't believe the amount of just aromatic buildup that happens when you cook, even in a professional kitchen. I mean, you clean and wipe down constantly. All right, so we got that mixed. It's in good shape. And then we just got to dump in our last ingredient, which is not getting the batter all over your hands. But if you get the batter on your hands, that's a bonus because then you can taste it. Although I am here to tell you, I shouldn't legally tell you so I don't get sued or some stupid stuff like that. You should not eat cake batter. It has raw egg in it, and it can make you sick. All eggs and chicken products have salmonella in them, and you could get salmonella poisoning. Now, that being said, I've been eating cookie dough and cake dough my entire life, and I don't recall ever getting sick. Now, but just so I do the proper thing, you should not eat it. Just like anytime you cook or bake, you should wash your hands. I wash my hands on a regular basis while I cook, doing dishes. So by doing the dishes, because I do them as I go. Oh, give me 1 second there. You get a knife out. So like I said, we got one more ingredient to put in here, and that's the blueberries, and I'm going to do that by hand. Because all we have to do is get them mixed in. So, I know I say so an awful lot, and I apologize for that. I can't help it. It's force of habit. But we only got a couple more steps left. That's how easy this is. After we get this in the oven, what we'll do is this has to cook for almost an hour, or an hour depending on your oven. And after we take it out, I'll show you guys how to make the lemon icing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, and let's get this in the pan first. And get the blueberries in it. All right. So we got fine mess running around all around this bowl. I am not always a neat cook or baker. I don't pretend to be. I'm a real life, in your own kitchen, not a professional baker and cooker. I make a pretty mean pizza at work, but when it comes to my own house, I try to keep it as neat as possible, but it doesn't always work out. All right, so we're going to dump our 2 cups of blueberries in there. And then I'm just going to hand mix them in. You can. I just throw it in the blender and go, but I find it has a tendency to beat up the blueberries just a bit much. So what I was talking about with fresh versus frozen blueberries, if you can see it or not, but see how it's got like a light blue haze to it. It does not change the flavor one iota. It'll still just taste like regular old blueberry and pound cake, like a blueberry pound cake with lemon icing on it. It just, like I said, it will swirl your or bleed into your dough. That's it, or your batter. That's all. I don't personally find it that big a deal. But if you want, you know, if you have fresh blueberries available, use them. Go team. All right, so all we want to do now is put this into the pan. And like such. What's crazy is how much this cake will rise in the pan. It's really kind of neat. Because it'll be like, you'll look at it and go, oh, that's not nearly enough batter. Brian has lost his mind with this. And it really is enough batter, because cakes will rise. This is one of our family's favorite cakes. And if you ever do get a chance to check out Joy of Baking on YouTube or her website, she bakes everything. I mean, everything. Breads, cookies, stuff from all around the world. She is an absolutely amazing teacher. She has definitely allowed me to kick my baking game up a notch. I mean, I never really baked. Not to sound like a song, but I never really baked until I met her. I happened upon her looking for different Christmas cookies, and she has got, well, at the moment, like 10 years worth of cookies, cakes, pies, and she puts out a video once a week. So I mean, she's got a lot of videos on there. And I've learned how to make some homemade ice cream stuff off of her. Just all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. She is absolutely awesome. So we got there goes that so again. And at least now I'm consciously aware of the fact that I do that all the time, and hopefully I'll slow it down a little bit. So we got our batter in there in the Bundt pan. Let me move this out of the way so you can see what's going on. And just for an extra measure of goodness, I'm going to wipe the edges off here. Yeah, you don't have to. The only thing it'll do is brown to the edge of the pan, and it'll fall off, or you'll knock it off later on. All right, so got that in there, looking good. Let's talk about ovens for a second. All right, so we did our oven mine's at 300 degrees because I have a dark pan. Now the recipe calls for 50 to 60 minutes in the oven. I know in my oven in particular, it takes about 40 to 45 minutes. So, you know, everybody's oven's different. And, you know, everybody in North America may have a Kenmore oven or whatever, Frigidaire oven. I think ours is a Frigidaire, or GE or Whirlpool. But none of them work the same. You know, some run a little hotter, some run a little cooler. So, what I would recommend, if you start with the 50 to 60 minutes, at about 40 minutes, do the toothpick poke test. When you do that poke test, you want to poke it in the center, and I do it in two different spots, one on each side, but in the center of that side. That way you'll know, and then you'll know it's done, or at least get an idea how much longer you have to go. But start with 40, 45 minutes. But like I said, the original recipe calls for 50 and 60. I know mine will run about 45 minutes, and I'll check it at 40 minutes. So when we get back, we'll get it out of the, we'll let it, when I pull it out of the oven, we're going to let it cool for about 10 minutes. And then we'll, when I come back, we'll pop the lid off and we'll see how it turned out. All right, and then we'll make the lemon dressing, or the lemon glaze that goes over top of it. So I'll see you here in just a few. All right? All right, guys, so we let the cake bake. I baked it for 45 minutes. Started checking it at 40. Now, something I was thinking about while I was checking it. All right, so let's say you decide that you're going to bake it for 45 minutes. At 40 minutes, when you start checking it, or say you check it at 45 minutes and it's not done. You know, you're pulling it out and it's still got, you know, a heavy kind of crumb, a little bit gooiness to it or whatever. Your toothpick doesn't come out clean. So how much more time do you give it? You want to start going in 1 minute intervals until it's done. I know that sounds tedious, but it's 1 minute too many can make the difference between a dry cake and a moist cake. That being said, let's say you pull your toothpick out and it doesn't have batter on it, but it's got a little bit of crumb to it. That's okay. That can still be done, because what happens is when you pull your cake out, all right, you're going to set it to let it cool to room temperature. So that cake is still cooking inside that pan. It's not like you're going to pull it out and it's automatically not going to be, in this case, 300 degrees or 325 degrees or whatever. It's going to cool, so that cake's going to continue to bake while it's in the pan. So by the time you let it cool to room temperature, it will be done. It can be done. All right, so that being said, I got it pulled out, oven's off, it's cooling down. We're letting it sit over there and cool. While we're doing that, we're going to make the icing real quick. Let me move this down so I can show you what we're making. This is like the world's simplest icing. It's more of a glaze. So things you'll need, once again, handy dandy cards. Only 3 items you'll need. You'll need 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar, or 150 grams. You're going to need 7 grams, or a half a tablespoon of butter, and you're going to need 3 tablespoons or 30 grams of lemon juice. That's it. That's the entire ingredient list. So what we're going to do is just, and it doesn't require any special fancy tools. I'm using a standard cereal bowl. I'm going to put my butter in there. Now your butter, you want it to be melted. So you want to melt it and then let it kind of cool back down a little bit, but not a whole lot. And then you're going to put your butter in there. You're going to put your lemon juice in there. Then you're going to take a fork and you're simply going to mix it up. You know, and I mean, you can, if you want to make it, you know, if you need to add anything to it, add a little more lemon juice to it. But I don't think you will. I've pretty much used this as a standard glaze for everything. This is the same way you would make glaze for, like, if you were making donuts. You would just not put the lemon juice in there. You could use water. If you don't have lemon juice, you can use lime juice. Or, once again, you can just use water in this. Or you can use milk. I mean, but in this case, this recipe calls for lemon juice, so that's what we're putting in there. Like I said, if you don't have any lemon juice, you can use water, but just write down on your grocery list. Remember, we're prepared shoppers. When you go to buy your blueberries to make this with, write down lemon juice if you don't have any. It doesn't take a lot, 3 tablespoons. You can buy one of those lemon-shaped lemon juice bottles and go with it. All right, so see, now we went from having powdered sugar to an icing. And that's kind of, like I said, that's just a standard icing. The only difference is we put lemon juice in it instead. Oh, sounds like we've got people home from school.
The umbrella is flying away.
Was it? Yeah. Excellent. We have a Sarah home from school, and she grabbed the umbrella because it was getting ready to fly away off the table. All right, so what do we do next? Oh, I hear an Abby, and that means we have a Chris also. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is take this cake out of the pan. Yes, I made a blueberry pound cake. All right, so the first thing we want to do after it's cooled a fair amount, you'll know. I mean, I can grab it on its sides. It's still a little warm. I wouldn't sit there and hold it for hours, but it's not horrible. Is grab our, well, I don't see it right offhand, and I just had it. Normally I use an offset spatula, but we'll use a knife. It works just the same. And just run it along the edges. Make sure your edges are good and, not stuck. And in this case, I'm going to run it around the inside edge too. And then that way I know we got it good all the way around. At least it's loosened from everything but the bottom. Or the bottom, which will then be the top. Because we're going to flip this over. So, plate onto the cooling rack. When you cool your pies or cakes, it's important that you use a cooling rack. That way the air goes underneath of it too and it can cool evenly. So, what we're going to do is take this, flip it over, like such. See how easily that just came out? And bam, it just fell right off the top there. So it came out nice and good. And you can see where I had a glob of blueberry in the bottom there. But there's what it looks like right there. Now you can buy fancy Bundt pans that give you curved edges and molded. They were very popular in the 50s. I mean, they're still very popular today, but Jello mold style Bundt pans that will give you that nice curved edge. I couldn't find one here in town, so we didn't get one. Hold on for me just one sec. I'll be right back and we'll ice this bad boy. All right, so sorry about that. All kinds of nuttiness going on. All right, so got the cake out of the pan, sitting there. It's still a little warm. It's not quite room temperature yet, but that's okay because we're about to put this glaze all over the top of it. And what that does is the heat will warm this glaze up a little bit and allow it to just go everywhere. It'll go nuts. And how much glaze you put on it, it's completely up to you. I mean, this makes quite a bit of glaze, but I want it to drizzle down over the whole thing, and well, at least mostly the whole thing, and get a little nuts with it. And then you just spread it over the top. Like I said, if you get one of the Bundt pans that rounds it, like an old Jello mold pan, I wish I had one, but unfortunately nobody around here sells one. At least not that I've found at any rate. I could be wrong. If you live in the Newark area and you follow me and watch my videos and you know some place that sells different styles of Bundt pans, awesome. But let me know. That would be awesome. So we get our icing on there. And like I said, it's going to warm up, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's starting to go down the side, which isn't altogether a bad thing. Now, I could have, and I didn't, turn this over and use the mounted side up, but I'm not going to. Obviously not going to now. I just put icing all over it, which is okay. This isn't going to a party. It's staying right here at home with us. And it will be good. Yeah, I imagine the thing got hit to the temperature. Alright, so we got it glazed. I'm going to let that all sit there for a few minutes, let the glaze firm up a little bit, let the cake cool down a little bit more, and when I come back, we'll try a small piece of it. It's going to be really good. Alright, I'll see you here in just a second. Alright, so I let it cool for about another 15 minutes or so, and now it's time to try it. Although, I don't know really why I need to try it and show you guys. We've eaten this dozens of times. I can tell you it's an amazing cake. But that way you can at least see what it looks like, and it gives me an excuse to eat a piece. right, so there is our blueberry cake. And see, like I said, it doesn't really, even though I use frozen blueberries instead of fresh, it doesn't really turn it blue like you would think it would. And that's even with putting the juices in there that came off the strawberries, or the blueberries. And you can do this recipe with any fruit that you would want, just incorporate it into it. Although I don't know if I would use the lemon icing with, any many other fruits. Lemon complements blueberry as blueberry complements lemon. If you were doing strawberries, I would almost just do a regular icing, or something like that. They might go okay with like blackberries, the lemon icing would. But you could do blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. You could probably even cut up peaches and put it in there, or pears, if that's your thing, which I like pears. That would be a good idea, actually. But you could do any fruit with this. But anyhow, let me quit running my mouth. I'm going to take a bite of this and tell you about how amazing it is. Because I know it's amazing. Yep. It's amazing. I would not lie to you about such things. Baked goods are my addiction. So they're Chris's addiction too, and I shouldn't make them as often as I should. We're going to weigh as much as this house we live in weighs. But it's so good. The cake itself is a little dense, but very moist. The blueberries and the lemon, they connect very well. And even though we got the icing on it, that outer crust that forms this part right here, it is amazing. It's just got the right amount of crispness. I don't even know how to describe it. But that is how we make our blueberry lemon pound cake in a Bundt pan. If you don't have a Bundt pan, you could probably squeeze that batter into just a regular bread pan and do it that way. You just have to watch your times and start checking it at maybe a little earlier or a little later. I don't know, because I've never made it in a bread pan. But I imagine it'd take about an hour with it being so compact like that and dense. But anyhow, so next week, Tuesday, we're gonna I'll tell you a little bit more about the book I've been reading, and we're gonna talk about heroes, superheroes, and what a hero is in general. And then I don't know what we're gonna do for Wednesday dinner yet. I'm still looking for another 50s style dinner recipe that's not incredibly weird. Like where there was a tuna jello thing going on, I don't know, but there's a lot of weird recipes that come out of the 50s and 60s. But we'll find one, and maybe we'll do that. If not, we may do some Santa Fe chicken. I haven't quite decided yet. I know tonight we're doing coney dogs and maybe some bratwurst. But anyhow, and then maybe I'll bake something for next Friday, or we'll look at some gardening stuff. I haven't gotten that far yet at all, but we'll find something weird and creative to get into. All right, well, I love you guys. I hope you try this recipe. I really do. It is absolutely incredible recipe. Goes very well together. I hope I did it justice by showing it to you. And I think that's about it. I love you. Tell somebody else you love them. And I will talk to you later. All right? Bye.